Hump Day, my friends. Welcome back in to another edition of Prime Sports World. On today's episode, we're going to be breaking down the off seasons for every team besides the Denver Broncos and the AFC West because we already did Denver. So keep an eye out for that show. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast as we go live basically every single day, bringing you guys the most up-to-date content, whether that be on Facebook, whether that be on Twitter, whether that be on Twitch, or whether that be on YouTube. So keep an eye out for that content, and please like, share, and subscribe. If you do want to join us and talk a little bit about the AFC West, I have shared the StreamYard link into our main platforms, so you can go ahead and join us. But please have some knowledge of the sport before you join our show. Also I will share the link if you want to. If you do happen to miss us live, you do have a plethora of streaming options, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. I will share that link to that right in just a second. But yeah, I'm David Hupp, and I'm your host. My co-host, I'm joined by Mr. TJ Hopkins. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you, buddy?
I'm all right. A little tired, but what's new?
I feel you, man. By the way, I'm very sorry about your car. I saw your post on the Facebook, man. Long live the orange Cavalier. I apologize, my friend.
Yeah, it's whatever. It was time.
Yeah, but you hate to see the first car go, like, you know.
Yeah, but hey, like I said, it was time.
I feel you. Well, let's get into this content. Let's talk about the AFC West. The first team we got to get into is the Las Vegas Raiders. And before we can even really do anything, let's talk about Derek Carr. Derek Carr. What?
Sorry. No, I was just 5-second count. I'm like, what are you waiting on? Call it. Like, go ahead.
Derek Carr released by the Raiders yesterday. Basically, he refused to waive his no trade clause, and so they're like, and basically he was like, "Yeah, I'm not helping you guys out. I'm not going to give you guys assets for me. I'm not waiving my trade clause. You're going to have to release me." He gets released, saves them $40 million for this season and next season, or is it just this one season? I think it's just for this one season. They get out of his money.
It's just this one.
Yeah, there's some dead cap money for the season. The the 2 seasons after that. What do we think about him getting released by the Raiders? And do you think it was a big middle finger from Derek Carr to the Raiders, the way they treated him definitely down the stretch there?
No, it's what you call it. It's what do I think about it? Like, we saw this when they benched him. Right? We saw the writing on the wall when he was a healthy scratch and they played Jarrett Stidham over him. Yeah. That's when the Raiders that was the Raiders saying F you to Derek Carr.
Oh, 100%. Right? Yeah, I think the feeling was mutual. Both those teams wanted to be done with each other. I'm just surprised that he didn't want to. I guess I'm not completely surprised that he didn't want to help out the Raiders, get draft capital or just assets for him.
Why? Why is it on him to help him? Why is it on him to help them?
I'm not saying on him. I don't blame him for one iota. I just didn't.
No. You just said I'm surprised he didn't help them get drafted. Like, why? Why is it on him?
I just didn't expect him. Like, if he went to an ideal situation, I thought he would waive the no trade clause. I didn't think that he would be like, yeah, I'm not getting traded. I'm not waiving it. You're gonna have to release me. I didn't expect that part of it. Again. Which I probably should have. I mean, come on. Given how the way that ended, I probably should have for sure. Derek Carr, what do we expect him is kind of his market to be?
Well, obviously the same markets that are in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes: the Saints, the Jets, the Titans.
The same teams are in the Jimmy Garoppolo sweepstakes too. I mean, the Saints, Titans, Carolina,
the Titans,
Carolina Panthers,
the Jets, Carolina. Yeah. So
I mean, potentially Tampa Bay.
Yeah, like, so obviously you want to go to most of these teams minus Carolina pretty much have fully stocked cupboards. Like New Orleans, you still got Michael Thomas, you still got him, still got Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, you still got. I mean, you got the kid from Ohio State that was pretty good for them this season.
Chris Olave.
Thank you very much. Who was solid for them this past off season. I think he's going to have a lot of suitors. We'll get more into where we think he's going to end up in a later episode. But if I had to guess, I think he's going to end up in Tampa Bay. I think that need to get. I know that they have a lot of cap space either, so I don't know how they're going to make that work. But I think he'll end up in Tampa Bay somehow.
Tampa's going to do their due diligence. I don't know I don't know what the plan is in Tampa.
I don't think anybody has a plan in Tampa Bay. But yeah, you see the list of the draft capital there. They still got a first round pick. Somehow they got away with not giving up this upcoming first round pick in the Devontae Adams trade. They basically have all of their draft picks, it looks like, and they even got a fifth round pick from Atlanta that I don't know why they have. I don't know why they have this sixth round pick from Dallas. I don't know why they have a seventh round pick from Arizona or New England.
Oh, the sixth round pick from Dallas. Oh, that's from Amari Cooper when Amari Cooper got traded there.
Oh, that's only transferring now.
Yeah.
Okay. Notable free agents, obviously Derek Carr. Cleveland Farrell has been pretty much a bust as a first-round pick. Denzel Perriman, a serviceable linebacker. Mike Hollins, who really stepped up this season as a wide receiver. Josh Jacobs, who was the lead rusher in the NFL. He's going to be a free agent. Rocky Sin, who they traded Yannick Ngakoue for. And then projected cap space, $29.5 million. I have not looked to see if this includes the Derek Carr money. I think it does because they were way over the cap before that. Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, Sandra Douglas Morgan is the team president, GM, head coach, respectively. How do we expect the Raiders to approach free agency and the NFL draft?
Honestly, I don't think. I don't know. They're obviously disappointed with how the season went. You made the move in the offseason of getting Devontae Adams, not thinking you'd have the 7th overall pick.
Yeah.
So, and you also kind of went into this not thinking you'd be moving on from Derek Carr. Obviously, with the market for the quarterback situation that it is, that's where you start. You can't go without a quarterback. So you got the 7th overall pick. Do you draft one? Do you do you trade that to Green Bay for an Aaron Rodgers? Do you flat out sign a Jimmy Garoppolo who's a free agent? Do you go get a who else is out there? Yeah, it's a plan. I think the first thing to do is go get a quarterback. I don't see them going forward with Jarrett Stidham.
I also don't think that they're going to. I also do not think that they're going to be a team that's going to be going into a lengthy rebuild. I just don't expect, because they traded for Devontae Adams, I think they changed their own timeline a little bit here. So they almost need to compete immediately and be competitive right away. I'm looking at this. I think Jimmy Garoppolo makes a lot of sense for this particular team, especially if they bring back Josh Jacobs, which should be one of their priorities when it comes to the offseason, is bring back Josh Jacobs. Whatever the number it requires to bring him back, he's too important to this offense to let him walk. But if I'm Josh Jacobs, I feel a little bit scorned by this franchise too. I mean, this is a team that declined my 5th-year option, and then I go out and have an incredible season, and now you want me back? I don't know about that.
So depending on how you're running the show, maybe those two priorities are 1, 2 in some capacity. Re-signing Josh Jacobs, finding the quarterback, re-signing Josh Jacobs. One of the two is in that, it's in that, in that order. I just want to give a quick shout out to the Raider fans who are glad that Derek Carr is gone, acting like it's all his fault that the Raiders didn't have any success during his tenure. I just want to remind y'all that during the time of Derek Carr's career as a Raider, he never had a top 20 defense. Never. So y'all know
Derek Carr's got to be in the top 5, every passing statistic in Raider history. He's got to be.
He's got so y'all know it. Y'all know what that means, right? That means every time Derek Carr scored 30, defense usually gave up 30, 31, 34. Again, the age-old story I tell is, I think it was the last year of Gruden's tenure.
Derek Carr is a wide margin ahead of anybody else who's ever been at the court.
He should be franchise leader, right?
He is the franchise leader by 16,000 yards.
16,000 yards.
He has over 75 touchdowns more than the next guy after him. Can you even guess who the second guy is?
Rich Gannon.
No, Rich Gannon's third.
Oh,
He only had 17,000 yards for his career. He threw for 114 touchdowns and 50 picks.
So if I had to guess, two would be. I could be wrong because I don't think he was a Raider, but it was two Jim Plunkett. Is two Jim Plunkett?
So Jim Plunkett was 5.
God damn.
12,000 yards, 80 touchdowns, 81 picks. Daryl LaMonica, if you remember Daryl LaMonica, what was it, the Bomber was his nickname, something like that. 16,655 yards, 148 touchdowns, 115 picks. Number 2 is Ken Stabler.
I feel stupid.
19,000 career yards as a Raider, 150 picks, 143 interceptions. Derek Carr threw for 35,000 yards. He threw for 217 touchdowns. He only threw 99 picks. And they want to scapegoat him and chase him. They want to scapegoat
him. They want to scapegoat him. They want to blame him. Keep in mind,
he has the highest completion percentage in the history of the Raiders.
This is a guy that would have been, I think, what was it, AFC Offensive Player of the Year.
He probably, if he doesn't break his back or whatever.
If he does, he broke his ankle. He broke his leg. Ankle. Yeah. And they went 12-4 that year, and he breaks his ankle in like the last game or second to last game.
Yeah, I think it was like the third, something like that, real late in the season. After they had already clinched.
Yeah, they had already clinched the playoff spot, the division sewn up. And obviously the rest of the season went how it went. You lost that playoff game, and so for them to scapegoat him, and I didn't even think about the Josh Jacobs scenario like you just did. Like, you declined my 5th-year option, and just for me to come out and lead the league in rushing in a league where Derrick Henry's a running back. Nick Chubb is a running back. What's his name? Jonathan Taylor's a running back. Dalvin Cook. I led the league in rushing. So
yeah, I mean, he had some games down the stretch that were just incredible, and like, this defense really struggled this season. But I think if you're looking to approach free agency and the draft, I think the draft, depending on what you end up doing at quarterback, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo makes a lot of sense going to the Raiders.
He's cheap. He's
I don't think he'll be cheap, but
well, no, so the plan could easily be Jimmy G at this stage in his career. He's now viewed as a bridge, the term bridge quarterback. He can.
Well, he's a winner too.
He can be your quarterback for 2, maybe 3 years, and while you sit the quote unquote future or look for the future. So say they stay at 7, right? They stay at 7. Obviously, what they do with their draft pick at 7 depends on what the Colts do, who are ahead of them, and what the Texans do, who are ahead of them.
And I think it also depends on if, like, the Carolina Panthers try to trade up to move ahead of the Raiders, because I think that's where you got to, if you want to get a quarterback and you're legitimate serious about it, you got to get ahead of the Raiders.
Right. So if
the three really good quarterbacks. I mean, you can make the argument that Anthony Richardson's probably 4, but I don't necessarily see him as a first-round talent.
I read a mock draft this morning. I think it was Ty McShay's mock draft. He has 4 quarterbacks going in the first round.
I think that's gonna happen.
I don't know how. I don't know what the temperature of the room is on Anthony Richardson. I just really don't, and for Will Levis for that matter. But if I get a Jimmy G in free agency, okay, I know for at least the next year or 2, I don't have to worry about playing a CJ Stroud if I draft him, or an Anthony Richardson if I draft him as high as 7th overall, or even a Will Levis at 7th overall. I can stash that guy away. He can learn the playbook. He can work on his mechanics, all that good stuff, and so on and so forth. Obviously, that plan is out the window if you somehow land Aaron Rodgers.
Correct, but I don't know if they necessarily have the ammunition. I mean, I guess they'd have to give up the 7th overall pick and whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, how much would we willing to trade
So
for Aaron Rodgers at this
okay,
stage in
yeah,
his career.
okay. Real talk. Like let's keep it 100 all the way. If I'm Green Bay, you want Aaron Rodgers. All right, I want that seventh. Give me that second. Give me. You're pretty much whatever draft capital you have for this draft. You're probably going to be out of that first, that second, that your first four picks, the first, second, third, and your fourth overall pick this year, plus whatever future draft capital you give them. That's going to happen.
I think if you can give up 2 first-round picks in a second, I think you get Aaron Rodgers. I don't think you necessarily have to give up all the first. I think the 3rd-round pick and the 4th. I think if 2 first-round picks in a second, that'll get it done. You'll have Aaron Rodgers on your roster.
Because let's be honest, I don't. That's another thing. I don't know what the temperature of the room is on Aaron Rodgers because everybody's just so done with his nonsense. Everybody's just done.
I mean, another avenue they could go. I mean, they could take a shot at, like, let's say they don't draft a quarterback in the 1st round, right? Let's say they go offensive lineman. Let's say they go defensive tackle, anywhere really in the trenches, really. And let's say they round 2 or 3, Hendon Hooker's still there for the Tennessee Volunteers. He's not going to play next season probably anyways. But he does have that upside. I mean, he's going to be 25, which is a little bit older when it comes to quarterback. But this is a guy who, before he tore his ACL, was going to probably win the Heisman. He got hurt in that game.
He was definitely a Heisman candidate. Or
they could take Tanner McKee, the kid from Stanford, who's got some upside, some talent.
Cam Rising out of Utah. Cam Rising in the 2.
Aiden O'Connell, Purdue Boilermakers. I mean, there are guys that could take later in this draft.
Later in the draft, yeah.
Stenson Bennett, who's a guy who's a proven winner. He's probably a little bit older to be like a project quarterback.
25 years old.
Yeah. So I mean, there are definitely guys that you could take in this year's draft if you want to go later with the quarterback position. But yeah, I think the Raiders, their approach to free agency is figure out the quarterback situation. That's got to be, when we talk about top 3 priorities, I mean, that's got to be their number 1 priority. I can't imagine that they're going to go into the season with Jarrett Stidham as your number 1 quarterback. I just can't.
I can't either. And I also want to. The caveat that they have going for them is 2 out of our top 3 weapons were hurt. Waller missed a lot of time. Renfro missed a lot of time. So it was a lot of Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, and that's real easy to zero in on, right? All I got to do is stop you once, maybe twice, and I score once, maybe twice. That's game. That's it. I got you. I'm doubling Devontae Adams, and I understand that it's easier said than done.
I mean, he went off for 1 billion yards this season. So
he had a career high.
He had a career high in yards, but I mean that's because teams couldn't stop him, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna let Devontae Adams kind of just get his. We're not gonna let anybody else beat us.
Right. So I would love a trio of Waller, Adams, Renfro. That is disgusting.
Yeah, it's nice. And I mean, if you bring back Matt Collins, they bring back Matt Collins, who had a pretty solid season this year as a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah, definitely somebody that can make some noise.
But yeah, I think the bigger disappointment again, the Raiders. When's the last time the Raiders had a top half defense? I don't
have a clue.
I legit think what is it? 32 teams in the league, right? I legit think they would take being middle of the pack on defense because the defense in the past has just been that terrible. But again, it's all Derek Carr's fault. Like, does Derek Carr throw a late game interception or a fumble that steals the game? Yeah, but at the same time, Derek Carr also the drive before puts you in a game-winning situation where if your defense comes up with a stop, game over. Like we see it. Like we've seen it. So I think what you said at first. What you said? Figure out the quarterback. Re-sign Josh Jacobs.
I mean, if he
wants to. Well, so can they? Is NFL free agency just like the NBA, where it's like the team you currently play for, they can offer you the most money?
No, I don't know. I don't know 100%. I know they don't have. I know there's no like the bird rule. You can't go over the cap to sign your own guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know for sure if you can offer them more money. I don't think that exists.
Okay. So because I know in the NBA, like teams like the team that you drafted with, like they can offer you the most money.
They could usually offer you one extra year plus money in every single season. I think it's like $5 million a year.
Right. So I don't know if that's the same in the NFL. This is also a former first round draft pick. So
yeah. I mean, this is a guy you don't want to. I don't think you want to necessarily let walk away. We'll see what ends up happening. Let's talk top 3 priorities for the Raiders. Then we'll move on to the Chargers. Top 3 priorities. I mean, we kind of talked about it, but what are the number of 3? So build up the trenches. They've taken a lot of swings at offensive linemen and defensive tackles, defensive ends, outside of Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, who was not good this season. I know he had that highlight play against New England, but he was basically invisible. I think you have to shore up the trenches when it comes to the Raiders.
Both sides.
Yeah.
Move on. What's said is said.
Moving on to the Chargers, who have the 21st pick in this year's draft. Their notable free agents: Kyle Van Noy, Storm Norton, who's the starting right tackle, Bryce Callahan, former Bear, Nazir Adderley, safety. Projected cap space negative $19.8 million. So they're going to have to make some decisions here. Brandon Staley, Tom Telesco, Dean Alexander Spanos, team president, GM, head coach, respectively. How would you approach free agency and the draft if you were the Los Angeles Chargers, given that cap situation? Rough.
Yeah, it's ironic how things work, right? The Bears had Khalil Mack. They traded him away because he's a cap casualty. And now the rumors are him being linked back to the Bears because of another cap casualty. Like, that would be insane, right?
Khalil Mack, if they cut Khalil Mack, they can save $18.4 million. They can also cut Michael Davis, who's a cornerback, for $7.4 million. Matt Filer, who's a starting center, $6.5 million. Austin Johnson at $3.4 million, because they're going to have to get underneath the cap because they're currently over.
Again, you made the moves you made because you're chasing that man in Kansas City. Right? They just hosted their second Lombardi in 4 years. You feel like you have the quarterback in Justin Herbert who can match Pat Mahomes throw for throw, play for play. You feel like you have that in that guy. And from what we saw that one game, damn it, he did. Like, he was just the one that made the costly mistake. All right, he threw the pick that was returned for a pick 6, and that was pretty much all she wrote. And the second time they played in the season, the Charger roster was just so beat up that it was just, what's the point? All right. How did the Chargers approach free agency and the draft? I definitely would consider more wide receiver depth on both.
I actually think they're okay at wide receiver. I mean, Joshua Palmer's a good player. Mike Williams. I mean, if they re-sign DeAndre Carter,
I get that, but the issue that they always run into is one of those two dudes are always hurt. Keenan Allen's hurt. Mike Williams is hurt. Then you have to,
I mean, that's true. And Joshua Palmer, who was the fill-in, got hurt in this season as well. So it's not somebody you can rely on full-time. Yeah, all the weapons on the offside. You also have to figure out something with this running game. Austin Eckler is a fantastic running back, but he's not an every down guy.
Don't tell him that.
I mean, they need somebody that gives them that brutal brute force guy. Like, they need somebody who's going to be just, we need 3 yards, get it for us. Because there were games where Austin Eckler just was flat out ineffective at the running back position.
Do not tell Austin Eckler he is not an every down back. He will. That's part of the.
He's got all the talent in the world to beat, but he's just not an every down back.
Don't tell him that plays a part in why he is who he is. His whole life, his whole career, he's been told, nope, you're too small, you're too this, and he's just, okay, I'm going to show you. I'm an every down back, and lo and behold, look what he's doing.
Yeah, he's been awesome. So
obviously, the last time you played a game, you left a terrible taste in everybody's mouth. Like, not just your mouth and the fans of your team, everybody's mouth. You were up 30. Well, not 30, but you were up
27 zip.
30
right before halftime.
30. You were up 30, and you lost that game And I think everybody would have loved to have seen the Herbert Mahomes divisional matchup or the Herbert Josh Allen
Yeah.
divisional matchup. Everybody would like, they would have loved that. They would have, I absolutely loved that. And I guess we got the next best thing in Trevor Lawrence versus uh, um, Pat Mahomes, right?
I don't know if that's the next best thing, but it is what it is. But this team does have some major needs offensive tackle after Rashawn Slater went out. Hopefully he's healthy next season, but they still need, if they let Storm Nord walk, they're going to need somebody to play right tackle. They need to get some depth at the linebacker position. This is still a team that gives up way too much yardage on the ground. They need to shore that up. J.C. Jackson, big offseason signing, probably will not play next season, I'd imagine.
When did he get hurt?
Hold on, I will get that number. I'll find that out. But I mean, he had the PCL tear. I mean, that's like one of the most difficult injuries to return from.
Yeah. So I think he might miss.
He tore it on October 24th. So that's like week 10 ish.
It's February. Yeah, he should miss maybe the first. What would you say? Maybe the first month of the season.
I'm gonna be honest with you. That patella tendon is a rough injury to come back from. I don't know what his timetable is going to be. I don't really, because I remember the last guy that I remember tearing that having that injury was Jimmy Graham, and he took him seasons to come back to back to who he was.
Well, it also depends on what you call it, rehab, how that goes. Like no setbacks in that. Obviously, all that good stuff. I also find it funny how Brandon Staley literally fired everybody but himself, and
well, I mean,
rightly so.
In a recent study in 2016, so 50% of players that tear that tendon never return.
Okay, what was that, 2016? It's been 7 years. It's been 7 years since that article was written, so time to update it.
I mean, Victor Cruz had that injury, never returned. Gerard Mayo, who's a good player, never returned. So doctors say 6 months to a year. So we're talking a year.
At the longest. So you said October, right? So November, December, January, February. He's at 4 months. He's at 4 months.
And we're also not. I'm not sure when he actually had the surgery. So
he probably had it maybe a week or two after the initial, because they stuff like that. I assume they want to operate at the earliest convenience.
You remember how long Kyler Murray's that? So he had his surgery 4 months ago. So whatever that date is. So yeah, he's on the path.
He's on the positive side. He's on the path to being to playing. Also, I think the last time I saw something like this where the coach fired his staff, and what was it when the Bears came back against the Arizona Cardinals in that Monday night game? The late Dennis Green literally fired every offensive coach that he had, and then the GM steps in. It's like you might as well join them. But this is it. I think this is it for Brandon Staley.
I agree with you.
If there's no real improvement, if there's a sputter like that again, especially in a playoff scenario, yeah, he's out of here, man. He's done.
I agree with you. I think this is a season where you have to have noticeable improvement across the board, offense and defense. Remember, Brandon Staley, defensive guy. This defense has been struggling. But yeah, we'll see what they end up doing.
Now, keep in mind, and that's unfair to Brandon Staley, because what am I supposed to do when my top corner and J.C. Jackson gets hurt?
And Joey Bosa misses a majority of the season.
So everybody wants to be like, Khalil Mack sucked and he only had 8 sacks. And I'm like, well, yeah, he's getting majority of the attention.
Yep. But yeah, when it comes to the draft, though, I do think they need to shore up kind of in the trenches of, we kind of talked about this when it comes to the Raiders, right? They need to shore up the trenches here. And free agency, they got to figure out how to get back underneath the salary cap. But in the draft, they need to shore up the trenches. They need to shore up this offensive line. I mean, you can't. Rashawn Slater and an injury to one guy shouldn't put this into a spiral, because was basically what happened last season. So, and they need to get the defensive tackle situation because they cannot be basically a revolving door when it comes to the running game. They have to get better.
It's just I don't know. They go 10-7. They basically limped their way to 10-7.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that this team was 10-7 was well testament kind of how talented Justin Herbert is. I mean, he just willed this team to victories all the time.
Like it, yeah. That's the truth.
Yeah,
I don't. Who? I don't know.
But let's talk about top 3 priorities. So when it comes to top 3 priorities, how do you think what should be their top 3 priorities when it comes to this offseason for the Los Angeles Chargers?
Hire a new team doctor. I don't know. Again, it's the same old. It's the same old story with the Chargers. They have a insanely talented roster. The expectations are high. Injuries. It's not just like you say. It's not just one injury. It's multiple injuries to multiple key guys. And so, yeah, the priority number 1 in the offseason has to be outside of getting under the cap, like get positive.
I mean, that's got to be number 1, right? I mean, figure out how to get yourself back underneath the salary cap. I got to find a way to keep these guys healthy. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep with the soft tissue injuries and hamstring injuries. I mean, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams all had hamstring injuries.
I can't keep doing it. I'm serious. I can't keep doing it with the soft tissue. It's too much. It's too. I'm in a division where, again, it starts and ends with Pat Mahomes in Kansas City. I think people expected them to be good. No one expected them to win the Super Bowl. Right? I'm being real. Like, I don't think everybody expected them to be good because Pat Mahomes has turned into that guy where he makes other players better. But nobody thought that if you take Tyreek Hill off this team, they're a Super Bowl winning team. 100%. Pat Mahomes, right? So if I'm the Chargers, I'm expecting the Broncos to be better because it'd be ignorant if you thought otherwise. I'm expecting the Raiders to be better because it'd be ignorant. No, I'm just saying. That's the ignorance I'm talking about. Like I'm expecting those 2 teams to be better because it'd be ignorant to say otherwise.
When it comes to the Broncos, they can't possibly get worse. So
yes, they can. Actually,
knock on wood for a minute there, but I just can't envision a scenario where they get worse.
They actually can get worse.
My third priority for the Los Angeles Chargers is to shore up the trenches. I think you need to shore up those right guards and left guard. I think you need to shore up whatever you're going to be doing with defensive tackle and whoever's going to play the other side defensive end outside of Joey Bosa. So.
I think they need a legitimate pocket collapser from the inside. I also think they need like you said, I think they need O-line depth. When they lost Rashawn Slater, it was pretty much downhill from there for that offensive line. Again, Rashawn Slater is the same dude as a rookie who told Austin Eckler and the other running backs on the team, they played a game against Cleveland. He told the running back, "Stop chipping on Myles Garrett. I got him." He told him that that was rookie Rashawn Slater telling his running backs not to chip on one of the premier edge rushers in the NFL.
And not to mention another thing that the Chargers need to be super mindful of. They need to be they should try to win a Super Bowl very soon before they have to extend Justin Herbert because he's going to be expensive. Whenever that does happen, that's going to be an expensive interaction. It will be.
And let's be honest, Justin Herbert, he's going to walk in there with a blank check. He can write whatever number he want down, and they're going to pay it.
Yep. They probably have one more season before they have to give out that extension. So the clock is ticking.
So I'm just saying, like, in the event that they don't win one, because it's more likely that they don't than they actually are. again, they are not going to reset their clock, reset the rookie scale by saying, "Oh, I'm not going to pay Justin Herbert this money. I'm going to get someone else," and basically go through this process all over again. I'm not
I
doing
don't think
that.
they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna go the Ravens route. Is what you're trying to say.
Right.
Moving on to the final team in the AFC West, the Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. Their draft capital, they got a bunch of draft capital from the Miami Dolphins as part of the Tyreek Hill deal, a fourth and a sixth. They also got a seventh round pick from Atlanta. I don't know why they have it, but they do. Their notable free agents are plentiful. Orlando Brown Jr., who was playing on the franchise tag this past season. Jarek McKinnon was awesome for them this year. Andrew Wiley was the starting right tackle. Juju Smith-Schuster was pretty good in the Super Bowl, pretty good majority of this season. Carlos Dunlap potentially could hang it up, but we'll see. Mikael Hardman didn't really take the step forward that many people expected him to. Juan Thornhill, starting safety. Tommy Townsend, their starting punter. Deion Bush, a backup safety. Their projected cap space, this is according to overthecap.com, 3.5. I've seen a couple of different numbers for the Kansas City Chiefs, but this is the number I'm going to go with. Negative $3.5 million. Obviously, head coach Andy Reid, GM Brett Veach, and their team presidents Mark Donovan. How should the Chiefs approach free agency and the NFL draft as they have the 31st pick in this year's NFL draft, the first round at least?
So the Kansas City Chiefs played with their rookies played the third most snaps in the NFL. Do you know who was 1 and 2?
The Bears got to be one of them. At one,
Bears,
probably.
The Bears are 1.
2, Falcons.
Houston Texans.
Okay, well.
So think about what I just said. They had the third most, like they used rookies the third most this past season. Where did they get them?
That's Super Bowl trophy. Yeah.
Compared to the teams that went one that used the most rookies, the Bears and the Texans, who are drafting 1 and 2 overall. That's greatness. That is the greatness of Andy Reid and that coaching staff. That is the greatness of Pat Mahomes, who said, "Okay, I don't have a true, quote unquote, true number one, but I do
have a lot of guys who can do a lot of good stuff. Like I have
exactly."
And I also think that makes their offense a little bit more dynamic because he wasn't as much anymore that he had to shoe in on just Travis Kelce and just Tyreek Hill. And all of those wide receivers kind of brought something different and tangible to the table. And they used them all super effectively. And Jarek McKinnon, I can't imagine they're going to let him walk, how valuable he was, especially down the stretch. I think he had a touchdown every game for like 8 straight. And he would have had a touchdown in the Super Bowl if he hadn't done the right thing and took a knee right before he got in.
Yeah. So if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously, I think my priority number one is keeping Orlando Brown Jr., who I think they can tag. Can they tag him?
Yes, but it gets more expensive every time they do after the first one.
Is this the first tag? Is this not the first tag?
This would be the. So he already tagged him once this past offseason. If they tag him again, I think he hits the repeater franchise tag, which it becomes like stupid. Like it becomes real expensive. I can't imagine that they're gonna. I think also it'd be cheaper on their salary cap if they could find a way to come to some sort of long-term extension with him.
So I see. That's the thing. Teams have to stop thinking that just because I play for this team and success is key and all that other stuff, y'all gotta stop thinking, hey man, I hope he takes a discount. I hope he, I hope he takes one for the team. I'm not doing that.
No, it's not just that. Because of the way franchise tags are tallied towards your salary cap, it actually counts. Even if the salary, even if you sign a big extension, it will cost less against your salary cap than keep doing the franchise tag over and over again.
So,
it's not about taking less money. It's about how the contracts are structured.
Same thing. Literally the same thing. It really is.
Okay.
No, I'm serious. So it's the hell. Oh, never mind. That's my phone going off. Uh,
It's probably
abs-
that the Bulls are never going to win another game this season, are they?
yeah. Oh no, I already got that notification. That was something else. I think this is the
Five in a
first
row.
tough. Um, whew, it's hard to pick. Like we've run into this with the Kansas City Chiefs for the last handful of years, right? It's hard to figure out what exactly they need,
Well,
right?
I still think they need to shore up this defense a little bit. I mean, but they do have some really nice pieces, and the rookies that they had in the secondary this year really played well. Um,
So that's the
but
thing. I if those guys have a terrible first season, which they didn't, you look at bolstering those two positions, like that corner and that safety position. Those guys had nice years, so it's
yep,
like, okay, I don't have to worry
and
about that for now.
and everywhere on their defense actually is pretty solid. I mean, even if Carlos Dunlap retires, which I don't know if he's going to or not. I'm not gonna vouch for that. He was still good this season, and I'm not gonna try to take the game away from somebody before it's time. But if Carlos Dunlap does retire, I mean, Nick Bolton has emerged as one of the best linebackers in the NFL. I mean, Frank Clark, one of the better edge rushers in the NFL, even though he is getting up there in age. George Karlaftis was really effective towards the later part of the season. They could just be like, you know what? Like, there's another position that I think they're going to need to shore up. It's the wide receiver position, and we all talked about how they have all these guys that do all these different things, but they don't have a guy that puts the fear that a Tyreek Hill, and they could use that first round pick to get somebody. I mean, I don't think the kid from TCU is going to still be there, but there's potential the kid from Tennessee could still be there at 31, maybe. His name is totally escaping me right now, but
I don't think that the type of receiver they need. I don't think Jalen Hyatt is has that body frame. I think they need.
I mean, he's a speedster. I mean,
Yeah,
they could use that guy.
he's a speed, but well, that's what you're hoping. What's his name? Sky Moore turned. That's why Izzy was so big.
I mean, Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt's more of a speedster than Sky Moore. Sky Moore is more of a switch directions quickly guy. I think he's shiftier than Jalen Hyatt has like stupid top end speed. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he ran like a 4.2 in the combine.
If he runs.
If he does run, obviously.
But anyway, same thing applies. That's why Izzy was so big. Most of Tyreek Hill's outside of obviously, yeah, the deep bomb threat was there for Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill, most of his yards did come after yards after catch, because you had to give him basically 8 to 10 yards of cushion because you couldn't press him.
And he would close that gap in a hurry.
And he would close it in a hurry. So, yeah, so that's why Izzy was so big on Sky Moore, thinking you put him with Pat Mahomes, maybe he can do something like that. And like, obviously, you're not going to recreate what Tyreek Hill did, because that's virtually impossible. That's why you made the moves that you made. You're hoping I get 3 guys to emulate the one.
And I think they kind of got that this season. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster, kind of the possession guy. I mean, MVS had some big catches where he was taking the top off the defense, and I made the argument, he's probably the greatest tight end of all time in Travis Kelce.
And again, it's just how do you let him get open? How is he not seeing 2 dudes all the time? Hey, how does Travis get, like, we saw it in the Super Bowl? He's just, you said it in the group chat. You're like, we say this all the time, but how does Travis Kelce just get wide open? And when we say he was wide open, he was wide open.
That's because he runs probably the best routes in the NFL right now. Let's talk top 3 priorities when it comes to Kansas City. What do you think their top 3 priorities should be this offseason?
Reload. in any, like, some shape or form, reload. We see it all the time. Most Super Bowl teams get poached, the winners and the losers. But again,
I think that's going to happen probably to this team. I think Juwan Thornhill probably will be too expensive for them to bring back, who was good for them this season, but I think he'll be too expensive. I think they can find his replacement potentially in the draft. I think the number one priority is to find out what you're going to do with Orlando Brown Jr.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find a way to extend him. I mean, he's probably the most important guy on the edge when it comes to the tackle position. He protects Patrick Mahomes' blind spot, and Patrick Mahomes is the franchise. You have to find a way not just to franchise tag him, because I don't think that's what you want to do here in this scenario. I think you want to find a way to sign him to a lengthy long-term deal. And so you don't have any questions about your left tackle, your quarterback, your tight end, anytime in the near future.
I also think that I don't necessarily think teams like using the franchise tag.
No, of course not. I mean, it basically makes it costs a ton of money against the salary cap.
Well,
and,
not just that,
and you have to pay the player more than they would have to get paid on a regular
fully guaranteed.
Contract.
Like fully guaranteed.
The contracts are fully guaranteed. As a player, you also hate them.
I just obviously I'm the player. Can't stand the franchise tag. Although, granted, the money is again fully guaranteed. Excuse me, but I think the reason I'm going with the team is I think that the reason the team hates it is because what you just went through for the past season of are you going to re-sign this player or this, that, and the third? You now create the scenario all over again. And now it's another. We saw it with Le'Veon Bell and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was 3 straight seasons of, are you going to re-sign him? Are you going to re-sign him? Are you going to re-sign him? It drove him crazy to the point where he took less.
He ended up going to the Jets, and that did not work out well.
And he ended up taking less money. It wasn't even the fact that it was the money. It was the fact that they offered him some form of contract security where it's not just a year-to-year basis where if I get hurt on this franchise tag, you now have all the ammunition to be like, I don't want to give you a long-term deal because you got hurt.
100%. Yeah. Orlando Brown Jr., getting him signed has got to be number one priority. Number two, I think you agree with you. I think you find a way to get back underneath the salary cap, but still keep some of your key pieces. I think you got to re-sign Jarrett McKinnon, Andrew Wiley. I think I'm on the fence about if you have to re-sign Juju Smith-Schuster.
Same.
But I think that's got to bring you guys back. I mean, that's got to be priority number two. Priority number three is, continue to build. They used a pick a couple years ago on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That hasn't really worked out because of Patrick Mahomes' salary. You have to hit in the draft. You have to get players that will be here in the future and continue to be cheap. And building through the draft, as long as you have a high-paying quarterback, is how you do it.
Considering the deal that Mahomes got back then, that's a bargain compared to what.
True. Whatever Justin Herbert signs eventually, it's going to be his contract. It's going to be huge. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is on a massive contract. Kansas City is going to be good every single season as long as they have Andy Reid and as long as they still have.
And imagine. And
I also read some rumors online, but I just can't imagine that this is true. Eric Bieniemy might be the next offensive coordinator in Washington. I just can't imagine that he's going to leave Kansas City to go to Washington to take that offensive coordinator position in a lateral move, right?
It
doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Especially on a coach that's potentially going to get fired if that season doesn't go well.
To me, that's below a lateral move. I'm not coaching. I'm not. So.
But I have heard that rumor. The argument is hey, I'm Eric Bieniemy. I can take my offensive system that I've made perfected in Kansas City, and I can take that system and prove that I can win somewhere else. Because we've gone to another coaching cycle where he still doesn't have a job in the NFL as a head coach.
I didn't know that he had as many interviews as he had. You know how many interviews Eric Bieniemy has had?
This cycle or just in general?
No, in general. Do you know how many he's had in general?
It's got to be 30.
Not half.
15?
He's had 15. No job.
Yeah, I mean, the argument is kind of he's like, hey, I have to prove that I can win somewhere where I
But
don't have
why?
Andy Reid.
So here's the thing: did Matt Nagy prove? Matt Nagy didn't call plays
I
under
I
Andy
I,
Reid.
I, I know. I know the conversation that's going to come up, and I'm not.
Zach
I
Taylor
don't.
didn't call plays under Sean McVay.
He didn't. Neither did the kid who's the head coach of the Miami Dolphins right now.
Mike McDaniels didn't call plays under Kyle Shanahan.
Nope.
So
He did not.
why does Eric Bieniemy like? Why does the goalpost?
I have no idea. That I imagine that if he was even considering that commander's job, which is a terrible job, don't take it. Eric Bieniemy, if you happen to be listening to the show, which you're probably not, don't take that job. Stay in Kansas City until somebody's willing to give you the reins to their franchise because you deserve it.
So my logic is this. This is just me thinking. So if I'm looking at these teams and I don't know all 15, I don't who interviewed him. What if their logic is in this interview process is this? If I hire him, we don't have Pat Mahomes here.
Yeah.
We don't have Travis Kelce. We don't have a Tyreek Hill. So what if we hire him and this offense that we see Kansas City run that's so high powered, what if we get that here and it's literally not the same? So I can see like teams saying that.
Yeah.
But I also think the more logical one and the more realistic one is that's not him calling the plays. That's Andy Reid. So we're not going to hire the guy who's just, there. He's just the offensive coordinator in name, basically.
Yeah, but we'll see what ends up happening with this Kansas City Chiefs with their offseason. Congratulations to everybody involved with the Kansas City Chiefs on winning the Vince Lombardi Trophy. Very well deserved. Also was one of the better Super Bowls we've seen in a really long time. So kudos to Kansas City Chiefs. And we've just broken down the offseason for every team in the AFC West. This show, not in this show, but in a couple of them. We did Denver in a previous episode. This was Kansas City, Las Vegas, and then Los Angeles as well. Let us know down in the comment section what do you think these teams should do in their offseason and how are they going to stack up against the rest of the National Football League. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. I've also shared the link to the myriad of our streaming platforms. If you want to watch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and, of course, iHeartRadio. Thank you very much. I'm David Huffman. Right there is my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. And TJ, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat, and might need a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice here in Fort Wayne, man. I'll tell you. I drove home from work today with my windows down. It was so beautiful.
No, I'm just saying, like the next 2 days, like the temperature is gonna drop, and it's supposed to snow. It's supposed to snow.
We get snow next week on Wednesday. This is like the fake fall, like where everybody thinks it's gonna warm up. It's like the fake spring.
Fake spring.
Fake spring.
We're gonna get some snow tomorrow, and it should literally be melted by Saturday.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. I'm David Huffman. Right there is TJ Hopkins. We'll see you guys all tomorrow. You have a goal. You have a great night. Peace out, brother.